Hi there. In this video, I will be showing you how to create a realistic forest scene like this in Blender. This is Yahoo Studios. And without further ado, let's get into it. Before we begin, here are other forest scenes I've created in Blender using the method that I'm about to show you. This is to let you know that I am still learning and developing. Reference is always good to have around, as this guides you on how to structure your 3D scene and where to place essential key elements in your scene. Just simply search for whatever you intend to create. In this case, it will be a forest landscape, and the internet should give you some good images to work with. Some good sites where you can get good reference are Pinterest, Google Images, Pexels.com. Do you know of any other good websites where image references can be gotten from? Let me know in the comments. Before starting, there are some free tools and add-ons I suggest you get to help make your work easier. They help me a lot. 1. The Free Plants Library. This assets pack gives us a lot of realistic assets to work with, as well as some materials to help bring this scene to life. 2. Openscatter. This is a powerful tool that helps us scatter our assets with powerful features that you may not get anywhere else for free. 3. Maxtree.org. Maxtree has a free asset pack that comes with a lot of high-res plant models that you can use in the scene. It has some good tree models too. Link is in the description. 4. An accurate sized human being model. This helps us to get a sense of scale in our scene, which is important. Otherwise, this scene may look weird. For our foreground, add a plane, scale it up and subdivide it a few times in edit mode, so that this has a lot of geometry we can work with. Next, set up your camera angle at this point so that we get a good idea of the scene. Now, add your human being model into the scene so that we get a good sense of scale in our scene. Next, go into sculpt mode, and from the camera's perspective, and using your human being model as a reference, paint a path using the mask brush. When you are done, invert the mask by pressing Ctrl, then I, and then using the mesh filter brush, left click and drag towards the left, just a little bit, so that we bring the now unmasked part down a little bit. You can then edit the strength of the effect to your liking. Next, create a new vertex group, and in weight paint mode, paint along the path that you just created. Now we want to create some deformations in the mesh, since we don't want it to be perfectly flat. To do this, we will add a displace modifier and create a new texture. In the texture panel, you can adjust the texture to your desired liking by tweaking the size and depth of your texture. You can then select the vertex group that we just created for the path and invert it, so that the displace modifier affects the whole mesh except for the path that has been created. You can then tweak the strength to your desire. To create even more detailed deformation, you can add another displace modifier, but this one will affect only the path. You can also tweak the strength of this displace modifier to your desire. At this stage, it is not a bad idea to set up your render settings and lighting. For my lighting setup, I usually use Blender Sky Texture. This is a very powerful node when it comes to setting up realistic lighting, and is very useful in this case. If you don't want to use the sky texture, you can also use any HDRI of your choice. Now to one of my favorite parts, scatter layers. Go to the Openscatter tab and create a new layer. But before we scatter any assets, let us create a path curve so that we can control the scatter layers a bit more. To do this, add a path curve to the scene. Go to Edit mode and delete all the vertices. Then select the Draw tool. Make sure it is set from cursor to surface and draw a curve along the path. You can edit the path after drawing. Drag your desired assets at a time onto the scene and put them in a separate collection. You can then select the collection through Openscatter by selecting multiple instances under Instances and then selecting your desired collection for a layer. Now here are some tips that can help you out. Firstly, always use a gradual fall-off when it comes to scattering the assets. What do I mean? What I mean is that scatter the small assets first, then gradually go up onto the much larger assets as we go further into the scene. What you can also do is scatter the trees first and then scatter the small assets and gradually go up. This way you can get a good idea of how the scene will look like. This is especially noticeable with the assets near the path. To help with this, you may need to scatter assets from the path. To do this, under the Proximity tab, enable Curve Proximity and select the curve for the path. You can then adjust the distance, the fall-off values using the Smooth Transition option and changing the behavior between Avoid and Seek to determine whether the instances should be gathered around the curve or should be distant away from the curve. Secondly, observe how Mother Nature works. This is where your reference comes in. Plants don't just grow all over the place. They usually grow in groups. To try and replicate this, use the Texture Mask option in the Openscatter tab. To do this, under Texture Masks, enable the Noise option and play around with the seed, scale, and the min and max values. These are the main settings that affect the random distribution of the instances. Thirdly, make sure you have a good balance of light and shadows. Don't be afraid of shadows. When it comes to lighting, shadows are a good friend of ours. Just make sure there's a good balance of light and shadows in your scene. After working on the foreground, you can add some background trees by adding a plane onto a scene, scaling it up, bringing it behind the foreground, and scattering some trees on it. This helps give some depth into a scene. Volumetrics help us greatly in creating atmospheric effects. They help bring out the aesthetic nature of the scene. To add volumetrics in your scene, it's simple. Add a cube, scale it up to cover the entire scene and apply a custom volumetric shader to the cube. If you don't have a special volumetric shader like I do, just remove the principled BSDF in the cube shading. Add a principled volume and play with the density and anisotropy values to get different results. God rays are another part of nature scenes that go hand in hand with volumetrics. They bring out a lovely look. Here is how to add God rays into your scene. First, you must understand that there are three fundamental parts for creating God rays in Blender, and these are light, volumetrics, and an object to block the light. With this in mind, adjust your light so that it is partially covered by the trees so that we get some shadows as well. The intensity of your volumetrics will determine the amount of contrast that your God rays have. Simple, isn't it? This is how to create a forest in Blender. You can apply this method to any other 3D scene you can think of. Thank you for watching this video. Take your time to share this video with anyone who may need this. Kindly give me a like if you found this video helpful. Do you have any questions? Feel free to ask me in the comments. And please do well to subscribe to this channel. I hope to see you in the next video.